Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into the United Nations, an organization that was literally born from the ashes of World War, meant to be our best defense against future conflict. But now, decades later, it is facing a massive crisis. So, is the UN still a powerful force for peace, or is it slowly becoming a relic?
I mean, let's just start with that founding promise. Signed back in 1945, the UN Charter laid out this incredible mission to keep the world safe and at peace. It was specifically designed to avoid the failures of its predecessor, the League of Nations, by building geopolitical reality right into its structure. I'm talking about the Security Council, led by 5 permanent members who all hold the power of the veto.
And you know, in its early days, it really showed what was possible. Under leaders like the legendary Secretary General Dag Hammarskjöld, the UN pioneered ideas like preventive diplomacy, basically getting in there and keeping local conflicts from blowing up into superpower showdowns. This whole period is often called a golden age for the UN, and for good reason. In 1956, during the Suez Crisis, the very first armed UN peacekeepers, the Blue Helmets, were deployed, and they were successful. Then, in the Congo in 1960, the UN took on its first peace enforcement mission to stop a region from seceding. And all through the 60s, it provided the roadmap for dozens of nations in Africa and Asia to gain independence. It literally helped redraw the map of the world.
But if we jump forward to our century, that image of the UN as an effective, neutral problem solver, well, it starts to fall apart. It gets replaced by a much grimmer reality of gridlock and powerful countries just doing what they want. Okay, let's break this down. Take the Iran nuclear deal. In 2010, you have UN sanctions pushing Iran to the negotiating table. By 2015, you get this landmark agreement, the JCPOA, a huge win for multilateralism. But then, in 2018, the United States just pulls out, unilaterally. The UN was completely powerless to stop it, and the whole framework collapsed. This analysis we're looking at shows this path leading to direct military conflict by 2026, with the UN's role shifting from a peace broker to just a place to make hostile speeches.
And then you have the 2026 intervention in Venezuela. The US carried out a military operation calling it law enforcement to remove the president. And in the aftermath, the UN's most powerful body was totally and completely silent. I mean, what a devastating message that sends, that for the most powerful countries, the UN Charter can sometimes feel optional.
Now, this slide is just fascinating because it shows the total disconnect. You had the UN Secretary General saying he was deeply concerned that the rules on using force weren't followed. China and Russia accused the US of creating an era of lawlessness. UN human rights experts went so far as to call it a crime of aggression. And yet, with all that condemnation, the Security Council couldn't manage to produce a single formal statement. Nothing. Complete paralysis.
So, how did we get here? How does an institution go from winning a Nobel Peace Prize to this kind of total gridlock? Well, the answer is baked right into the UN's DNA, specifically the power of the veto. And here we go. This is the core of it. The veto was originally meant to stop wars between the great powers, but now it's become a tool for them to protect their own national interests. In 2024 alone, 8 resolutions were vetoed. That's the most in almost 40 years, and it's brought the Council to a grinding halt.
And this chart just lays out the divisions perfectly. Russia casts 4 vetoes, the USA 3, China 1. And we're not talking about small stuff here. These vetoes blocked action on some of the world's most critical crises, from the war in Ukraine to calls for a ceasefire in Gaza. But you know, it's not even just the vetoes you see on the news. There's something called the hidden veto, and you could argue it's even more damaging. This is when a permanent member just threatens a veto behind closed doors. That threat alone is enough to stop a resolution from ever being proposed, or it gets watered down until it's meaningless. Experts say this hidden power is a huge reason for the UN's tragic failures to act in places like Rwanda and Sudan.
And we are seeing the real-world consequences of this paralysis all over Africa, which has long been the main stage for UN peacekeeping. In Sudan, the UN mission had to pull out, totally unable to stop a brutal civil war that's created the world's largest displacement crisis. In the DRC, a massive mission is winding down because it couldn't stop the rebels and it lost the trust of the people. And in Mali, the mission is just gone. The UN's influence is at an all-time low, and it's leaving a huge security vacuum.
So this growing crisis of legitimacy is fueling these really urgent calls for reform, and it's all centered on the UN's completely outdated power structure. Here's the fundamental problem. The Security Council's permanent members are a snapshot of the world in 1945. It just is. It leaves out major global powers that have risen since then, and it completely denies entire continents, like Africa, a permanent say in the UN's most powerful room. This democracy deficit really damages its credibility.
Now, a leading voice for change is India, and when you look at the numbers, they have a powerful case based on their unbelievable, decades-long contributions. Since 1950, India has sent over 290,000 personnel on peacekeeping missions. That is the largest contribution from any single nation on Earth.
And their experience is just second to none. Indian peacekeepers have served in 49 different missions, often in the most dangerous and complicated places imaginable, from the Congo to South Sudan. They've earned this global reputation for being true professionals.
And this incredible commitment, it has come at the highest possible price. Almost 180 Indian personnel have died serving under the UN flag, the most of any country. And yet, they are still shut out of the UN's top decision-making table.
So, all of this brings us to the ultimate question. Faced with this deep, structural paralysis and a crisis of representation, can the United Nations actually change?
Believe me, there's no shortage of ideas. You have the G4 nations, India, Brazil, Germany, Japan, who want to add new permanent seats. The African position demands 2 permanent seats with veto power. Some have even proposed letting the General Assembly override a veto. But all these ideas run into the exact same brick wall. Changing the UN Charter requires a yes from all 5 permanent members, the very countries whose exclusive power would be reduced. And this brings us to this stark contrast. The ideal of the UN is this center for collective security, a guardian of international law. The reality, though, is an increasingly fractured world where, as one analysis puts it, might is the chosen method for policymaking.
So, this leaves us with a final, pretty provocative thought. As we face challenges like renewed great power competition and existential threats like climate change, you could argue we've never needed a functional UN more. But its ability to actually meet those needs has never been more in doubt. The real question is whether the world's nations will find the political will to reform it or just let it follow the League of Nations into the history books.